everybody. I'll have to introduce myself today. My name is Sue Coulson of Crystal Clear Energy, and I've organised today's event for you. I wanted an opportunity to just talk to you a little bit. I'm going to probably not be as long as everybody else because it's quite hard work for me to switch roles from being the organiser into being the presenter, but I'm going to do my best. And we're going to continue our journey up the chakra system. So those of you that were here this morning had a lovely introduction from Janelle about what the chakras are, and then we had our wonderful presenter, whose name I still can't say very well anyway, talking to us about the personal chakras. So for those of you that maybe weren't here this morning, the personal chakras are just to do about us. We started with the base chakra, and that is really how we connect with the security of our existence here in the physical world, and it starts from the base of the spine. She moved up, I'm sure, I didn't get to hear it myself, into the pelvis, which is the centre of our sacral chakra, which is to do with our creation process, our intuition, and our personal identity. She'll have moved up into our solar plexus, which is our point of expressing what we have learned from below, how we bring that energy into the world through action. And then she'll have moved up into the heart centre, which is the centre of the chakra system. We're just focusing on the 7 chakras. This is the place where we start to then embrace others. We take those personal feelings from below and the personal energies up into the heart centre, where we start to connect with the world around us. We connect through our relationships, we connect on a much bigger scale, which we may touch on later, to the whole of existence through our heart centre. And then she'll have moved up into the throat chakra, which is where we express all of the stuff that we've got going on about us. We express our beliefs, we express ourselves through our throat chakra. And we start to get feedback as well, as we hear through our hearing. So the throat chakra is really a gateway. It's the transition point between us just being about us and expressing who we are and interacting from our perspective, to communicating and receiving things from higher vibrations. So we started off at the base chakra with long, slow waves, which are basically about the growth of our physical existence here in the world. We move that up into the sacral chakra, which is about literally the creative process of bringing new life here. We can see that reflected through the menstrual cycles, so we know that we can almost count that in a monthly cycle. The solar plexus chakra is about our digestive systems, which is more of a faster frequency again. It's about our daily cycles of digestion. When we're up in the heart, we're dealing with energies and rhythms and frequencies that we can count. We are counting our heartbeat and our breath. And when we move up to the throat chakra, we are dealing with sound waves. Again, it's another physical thing, although we can't see it or necessarily feel it in quite the same way as we do our heart chakra. Sound waves are to do with air pressure. My vocal cords are vibrating the molecules in the air and causing those vibrations to softly and gently, hopefully, vibrate your eardrums. So again, all of this is in the physical world. When we move up into the brow chakra, which is where I want to start with our journey today, we are talking about connecting in with a different level of being. Because here we start to see vibrations that are of the electromagnetic spectrum. We're seeing visible light. It's the first time in our chakra system that we've embraced that part and that aspect of our connection with the world. The electromagnetic spectrum isn't directly related, it's a force, electricity and magnetism. Although they are made of electrons and react with the forces of gravity, they aren't material aspects like we see even with the sound waves and the air pressure. So from here, our eyes are interpreting things on a whole different level. We're seeing vibrations, if you like. And we know we can see a spectrum of light, which is quite a small range of what is available to us in the electromagnetic spectrum. And I would like to pose the question that we have another option here. Our brow chakra has got a point inside our brain, which the ancients called the third eye, which is our pineal gland. It's inside the brain. This pineal gland reacts to light in the same way that our retina does. And this area of our brain is able to interact with the electromagnetic waves that are around us and gives us our inner vision. I'm sure all of you here dream. Put your hand up if you've never dreamt ever. Nobody, I thought not. It's where we have our psychic experiences. How many of you work in meditation and see images when you close your eyes? Quite a lot of you. So we are able to conjure images in the mind without actually seeing the visible light. And some scientists are starting to believe that we are able to do this through the deciphering of the pineal gland. I can give you some references to research that I'm not going to go into a huge amount today. What I want to talk to you about is how we can support that energy, how we can balance the energy of the brain, and how we can activate our awareness of internal life and our connection to existence in a different way. Is this all making sense? So crystals, I'm sure they told you earlier, help us to expand our energy through a process called resonance. I'm not sure if has anybody mentioned that yet today? How many of you don't know about resonance? That means everybody does. Resonance. Yes? No? Okay, just explain it, they say. I'll do it a quick version, okay? Basically, all energy, no matter what its source, if it's called energy, it has a vibration. We take a vibration in a simple way as being a sine wave that goes like this. Everything generates this sine wave by virtue of movement. So everything, therefore, conversely, has movement. Yes? When our bodies generate energy on every frequency that there is my belief, and it's called a scalar wave, and it's our central core energy. That is our soul, if you like, and that fundamental frequency that is unique to us is of our individuality that connects us to source energy and into the physical world. Modulated onto that in the same way that radio signals work, we have other energies and frequencies. Our body generates energy. We just said the chakras all are energy generators by virtue of movement from within our body. The heartbeat is creating an energy field around us. The throat is creating an energy field. So we have a full spectrum of energy around us, not counting what energetic effects our brains and our thoughts have, which we'll get to in a minute. And resonance works by having one sine wave that's exactly the same, two sine waves that are exactly the same, having an additive effect or a cancelling out effect if they're in opposition to each other. So if I have two sine waves that are the same, if I pluck a guitar string that's held next to another guitar that's tuned to the same note, the string on the second guitar will vibrate at the same time as the first guitar string does. You'll notice this in your car. You'll be driving along 55 miles an hour, the wheels are going around on the car, and all of a sudden something in your dashboard starts to go zzz, and you think, oh, what's that? And you take it to the garage and they never find it because it's only a resonant frequency to the particular speed that you're going. If you go faster or you go slower, it goes away. Well, crystals produce unique energy. They are very finely tuned to a precise frequency, and we can use those precise frequencies to help to amplify or negate an energy within the human body. So when we want to stimulate or activate one of our chakras, then we use a stone that we choose that is in harmony with that vibration that we want to amplify. If we have an energy blockage, we might want to boost it, we might want to reduce it. If we've got energy that's overactive in our bodies, then we might want to find a stone that's calming to those influences. So that's the basis of resonance. We find something that matches the frequency, that has an interference pattern with it, that actually has an influence on it. Does that make sense to everybody? So we're going to look at some stones that are going to influence the upper chakras. That's what I wanted to introduce you to today. We're going to start with this one. And for me, it's like an obvious one. I've chosen today to introduce you to mostly ones that are easily available so that you can go out there and find them. I've got a list that I use for a workshop called Crystal Connections to Higher Dimensions. It's got over 70 different crystals that just interact with the upper chakras, and if you want to go into that, then you can find out more about them. But today I've chosen some more obvious and easy to get hold of examples. This is lapis lazuli, which comes from Afghanistan, and it's been known in the world at least as far back as Egyptian times. Egyptians used to make their eyeshadow out of this and paint their faces. And it's my belief that they did that because they understood the energetic properties that are contained within this mineral, because it's a very, very pure blue. And the guidance that's come through to me is that this particular colour is very activating and balancing. And I'm going to use the word expanding to the third eye. It doesn't necessarily bring in higher vibrations. It enables us to see what is presented to us on our inner mental screen. So when we start talking about the upper chakras, they sort of overlap. We want to be able to connect, which is more to do with the crown chakra. Here is just about seeing. It's about seeing with our physical eyes, and it's about seeing with our mental screen. And for me, this particular stone is very good at activating that. I'm going to pass it round. Whilst that one's going round, somebody, if it goes that way, it can come back that way and it will land back on my table. Lapis lazuli is actually a stone as opposed to a mineral, which means that it's made of minerals. There's more than one type of mineral in that stone. Maybe only 40% of it is lazuli. The rest of it is going to be sodalite, white calcite and pyrite. The deeper the blue, the more valuable the stone. Usually what you will find for metaphysical work is stripy like this, or you can, I'll pass this one around too. You can see the gold flecks of the iron pyrite in there, so it's sparkly, and you can see the stripes of the white calcite. I'll pass that one around as well. So they are really helpful for you to open your brow chakra, and I'm sure that you, as you hold them, you'll probably feel your energy there expand. For me, it's like watching a movie. If you're used to watching your inner screen go from like an old-fashioned TV into widescreen, it goes wow, and it's like, oh wow, it just, you know, it helps to expand our vision of awareness. So that one I would recommend for that. We touched briefly on the fact that the next chakra up is our crown chakra. Our crown chakra is where we open ourselves to connections with higher vibrations. It's our place of knowing our, I'll use the same word again, our place in the universe. It brings in those high vibrations that connect us to the infinite consciousness that surrounds us and gives us that sense of knowing that we belong somewhere other than just in this physical world. So when we open this chakra, we often get an influx of energy, which can be unbalancing when we first do it if we don't understand it. If this chakra is blocked, there'll be people that don't allow energy to come in from above, that never dream, hardly dream, are really not very good at visualizing things. They struggle to really invent things or be creative from the mind. So very much focused down here in the physical here and now. So when we open our crown chakra, we bring in those higher vibrations. It's helpful to work in conjunction with the brow chakra because we have a balancing and a synergy going on there that allows us to be clear about what it is that we're seeing. Does that make sense? So, amethyst is a nice, soft, easy, gentle way to open your crown chakra. I'm sure the others have explained to you that the colours of the rainbow basically is one way to interpret the chakras. So it stands to reason that the crown chakra can be purple. It can also be white, but we'll get into that in a minute. Amethyst is a type of quartz, and quartz all by itself is a powerful tool for interacting with our energy, and I'll come back to that also. How many of you have a piece of this? Pretty much everybody, yeah? For most people that like crystals, if you put a bag of crystals in front of a child, the first one they pick out is the amethyst. It's quite an interesting thing to watch that, but it's true. And I believe it's because it helps us. Crystals, if we like crystals in the first place, we're already open to these vibrations, and we know that this is going to help to bring those vibrations more in alignment with our being. It comes down to that resonance factor we were just talking about. We already know that we have these high vibrations in us, and this just helps us to bring them in more clearly. Yeah? So we'll pass that one. You don't want to?
Only because lots of people have touched it.
Okay. Fair enough. Amethyst holds such high vibrations that I actually use it to grid rooms. And so when I'm holding a workshop, because it's quartz, it helps to bring in pure high vibrations. I'm not really one for using the word protection, because for me, when your energy is grounded and balanced, then you are self-contained within your energy field. And amethyst brings in such high vibrations of that violet light that it surrounds and strengthens our own auratic field, that I use it to grid a room when I'm going to be working with high vibrations. So that's one of the uses for it. Amping that up a little bit, this one's called chevron amethyst. It's amethyst that's grown with white banding in it, in these triangle shapes, which is why it's called chevron. And this can be very helpful for working on journey work through the crown chakra. So how many of you know what I mean when I say that, or shall I explain? Explain. Okay. We're going to work up to that because we are getting there. Okay. When we have expanded our energy in the beautiful way that I'm sure Ruth introduced you to earlier today, we expand our whole energy field, and we open our mind, we open our brow chakra, we open our crown chakra, and something really beautiful can happen. Our energy moves up into this point above us called our soul star. I see this as a point of light that sits above my head around here, and any of you that are can see auras may see that above my head. Many people have said they've seen that. For me, that is an expanded energy field here that is the gateway to going off into higher dimensions. It's the gateway, the porthole that allows us to connect upwards and outwards. Yes? Connecting us to that infinite flow of energy. Does that kind of answer your question? Good. So, some of the white crystals that I've brought today help us to make that connection. So they help to open what we call the transpersonal chakras, the chakras that go out into higher realms. Not going there too much. And the first one that I would like to introduce you to that opens that chakra is called apophyllite. Everybody got that one written down? How many of you have worked with this stone before? Quite a lot of you. Good. This stone has got really quite high vibrations. For me, I find it really expanding. It helps to expand our soul star chakra so that we have that clear connection above us. And so I use it in journey meditations. Journey meditations, when I say the word, for me means that we find a way to go inside ourselves, to connect on that mental screen where we are able to see our inner world. And I usually do this guided, so this is part of my work and workshops that I hold for people, is to provide them with a very safe space in which they feel held and nurtured, but also that's got a very high vibration due to the crystals that we use, and then I guide them into a deep state of relaxation. So we go through the beta and alpha down to theta level of the brainwaves, which is into that slow dreamlike state, so that we can go and view things in other dimensions. So we are connecting with energies and guides from different places other than in this physical reality. This for me helps with that. This will help you, if you read a book, this will say this connects you to your angels. It does. It connects you to a lot of other things too. It's a lovely, lovely, gentle stone to work with. And again, you can pass that round if you like, if you want to expand. Next on my list to talk to you about is selenite. Selenite is a relatively inexpensive mineral to buy. It's actually gypsum. It's a salt. Needs to be handled somewhat fragilely. You don't wash it because it will slowly dissolve on you. Well, you can wipe it, but don't leave it in the sink overnight or anything. But this has got a very high vibration, and I particularly like these ones, which they call satin spar. They've got the striations in them. If you hold them up to the light, they're quite opaque. And I like to think of this as my column of light. So in my meditations, I visualise a column of light coming out the crown of my head, and I kind of think about it looking similar to this. It's very activating. As soon as I do it, I feel my whole body go. If you're up for a funny story, I bought a whole bunch of these for a workshop. I've got them all with me. I use them quite a lot. The day I unpacked them, my dog was just a little puppy, and I took some out of the wrappers, and the dog went mad. Went running around the house, went to the front door as if somebody was there. So much in reality that I put everything down and went to the front door because I really genuinely thought somebody was at the front door. There's nobody there. I was really surprised. So I'd been sidetracked, I went off, did some washing up or something, and 10 minutes later I'm like, oh, I was unpacking those crystals. I sit down, got the crystals in my hand again, same thing happened. The dog went dancing off, and a penny dropped. Basically, as soon as I held the crystals, I was so tuning into bringing my guides through that my dog didn't understand at that time that they weren't physical beings. He could feel their energy, knew that somebody was here, but he didn't know where they were. So he was going to the front door because he thought somebody was coming in the house. And I told that story to my friend, and she was a bit like, yeah. So she had to prove that to herself and held the crystals herself, and the dog did the exact same thing. So this one will definitely connect you with your higher vibrations and with your guides if you are open to allowing it to resonate with your energy. Obviously we all have to be ready to open and be in sync with those vibrations for any of this to work. So you can pass that one around. I feel truly blessed to be able to show you this because it's not mine. I've borrowed this. Some of you may well have seen either pictures on the internet, or you might have seen a BBC TV programme that was out last year where they visited a mine in Mexico called Nacia, where they went deep underground to some gigantic caves filled with selenite crystals that were 20-30 foot long. I mean, they're longer than this hall. And this is a piece of selenite from that cave. It's got extraordinary energy. I will pass it around, but I must ask you to be very careful with it because, as I said, it's not mine. But if you hold it up to the light, it's so clear and so transparent, mainly because it's formed so deeply underground. It's so densely packed, much more so than the white crystals that I've just handed around. But it's very special. So I wanted to share that with you today. They're making their way around slowly. What's next? So we've talked a little bit about moving on up the scale of things. The journey meditations that I spoke to you about, some people call them shamanic journeying, where you leave the body to go outside to view aspects of your life that will help you with your current life to bring you information. One stone that is useful for facilitating journeying is this guy. So this is called Celesta Barite. Actually, this part, the salmon pinky coloured part with the grey bands in it, is actually the Celesta Barite, which is the band that runs through here. And it grows literally like this with pyrite. See the pyrite on the bottom of there, there's pyrite on the bottom of here, and the white on here is calcite. This particular stone comes from Chippy Sodbury, which any of you that are local know that's not very far from here. So it's one of our local resources. I'm sure Marie has explained this too. When we are in sync with the earth, especially with the earth where we live, like if we live in this area, we make a stronger connection with the crystals that are around us. So this was a great stone to work with if you want to go off doing shamanic journey work. It's called Celeste, like Celeste as in stars, O and then Barite, Celesto Barite. Just needs to go back to the table. So, part of really understanding our place in the world, which is partly why we do those journeying workshops, is to understand ourselves. This little crystal, which I will hand around, is called Astrophyllite. Say that slowly, like astro, off, a light. And the vibrations that this helps to connect with is very expanding. It helps us to find our place in the universe and help us to embrace the fact that we are multi-dimensional beings. So one of the workshops that I use this for is the Crystal Connections High Dimensions thing. You're probably getting the theme of this now, where we do a journey to connect with our higher selves. So we literally go and meet our higher selves to find out who we are from that higher dimensional perspective. That can be quite interesting for a lot of people. Pardon?
What is it again?
Astrophyllite. Yes. Promise I'll put them all on Facebook or my website when I get home. So this particular crystal is called a stellar beam calcite. It's defined by its really sharp terminations and its colour. It is just a form of calcite, which is calcium carbonate, but because of its shape, it's very much connected to our higher dimensional awareness, and it's really quite an accelerated journey to connect it with that multi-dimensional part of ourselves again. So that's another one that we can use.
What did you call that?
A stellar beam calcite. I'm just trying to decide where to go. I want to do a little meditation with you in a minute, but I wanted to explain to you why all of this is important. It's all well and good me telling you this information, but what does it mean? What do we use it for? Why do we need to journey to other dimensions, and why do we need to connect with our guides? Why do we need to expand our energy at all, really? The reason that we need to do that in this moment is because we are all living in a new age. We are living in new energies that are around us, and we have to adjust ourselves to be in alignment with that so that we can move forwards with our own journey without getting ourselves into too much trouble. I've been doing this work with the crystals now for quite a number of years, to the point where messages come to me. I've got a very strong connection with my guides, who are light being guides, and I met those guides through working with the crystal skulls. I started doing the crystals like you guys have just all held, and opening my connection and expanding my energy. And then the crystal skulls came into my life when a time when I really had no interest in them. In fact, you'll hear me say quite publicly that I really didn't like them very much at all, didn't want much to do with them. But they came into my life and they made a big change very quickly, and looking back on it, the trigger that really occurred was they expanded my heart energy so that I could bring in this expanded awareness from above into my heart chakra and really embrace it. And through that expansion, I was able to connect with light beings, high vibrational beings of light that resonate with the vibrations of love. It's hard for me to explain those feelings to you. I invite you to come along and experience it for yourselves, the best way to do it. But it's a really opening, expansive, it's like the first time you fell in love, you know, that really expanded heart opening feeling. And it's possible for us to embrace that more regularly than when we're just first falling in love with somebody. And it's a very nice place to be. So, in preparing for this talk, I was trying to think my way with my logical mind into a space of what it was I was going to talk to you about today, and not succeeding awfully well, I must admit. And I fell asleep and got a dream, got a vision, which is quite often how I make my connection. I get lots of visual images and strong messages through my dreams. And they shared something, I'm not saying who, because I don't know, they shared a message with me that I think is very poignant for today. That we all go on a quest. They showed me with a bunch of my family and friends going on like a treasure hunt. We were out there trying to find treasures. We were out there, in fact I came back with crystal skulls. We came back with crystal skulls which we thought were fantastic in the moment. We saw them as beautiful, sparkly objects that we really admired. And in that moment we felt that connection to the joy and to the love. And we put them on top of my grandmother's telly, as you do. And then in the dream somebody came along and started dropping these crystal skulls off the back of the telly, because they were really kind of concerned about what other people would think about them. They're kind of odd looking and might give the wrong message. And I stood defiantly by mine. Nobody's touching my crystal skulls. I understand what these represent for me. And so I was defending them. And then the clarity came in to what this all actually meant. Basically, we all do that, don't we? We go off on a mission to find something much like Christmas, that in the moment of it brings us a feeling of joy. When we first buy something, we are like, wow, we're kind of enraptured by it and we're taken by it and it brings us joy. And then all too often we tend to disregard it. It kind of blends into the background of our lives and we aren't really present with that object anymore. And the message was that when we find alignment with the moment of connecting with it for the first time, we open ourselves to that joy. And as we bring in that energy, it expands our energy, and that is the channel that brings peace to our hearts. But as we expand our heart centre, we are able to connect with the universal field that connects us with all of existence. So in that state of being, we are connected to all things. All too often, we aren't able to stay there. Everybody with me so far? Yes. So, I'm very pleased about that. The message was that we are now, and we mean now, in this moment, we're coming into some really big earth energies and astrological alignments over the next, well, this started last week. They come into focus next Wednesday with a grand cross forming over us. And that period starts to break up again by the solar eclipse that we have on the 29th of April. In this time period right now, we've got the highest vibrations around us that we've had in a really, really long time. And they're telling us that now is the time for us to claim who we really are. And who we really are is this pure vibrational beings of light at our core. That is a channel for peace. We know we're connected when we feel the peace. And we bring through the expanded vibrations of love to connect us with all things. And it's about maintaining that. It's not about a one-time thing that we're going to do next Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock on top of the sanctuary. Little plug, just in case you want to join me. But it's something that we need to do constantly. So I researched a little bit of brain science around this from a guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza. How many of you have heard of him? Yeah? He was the guy that was in What the Bleep Do We Know? One of the guys from that movie. And he's written a book about how to change your mind. Because I can't go into all of it, because to be really honest, I haven't retained everything that he said. But the general gist of it is that our brain thinks the things that we want to change. We know on some level of our mind function that we want to make a change. That much is obvious, yes? But what happens is that whenever we create a thought, a separate part of our brain triggers a chemical response that flows through our bodies. And at that point, we have like a feedback loop going between our brain chemistry and our thoughts. So our thoughts create our emotions, and our emotions are charged, and they are literally fed into every cell of our being as body chemistry. If we just think a thought and let it go, it goes away. If we keep thinking a thought, or somebody upset us this week but we're holding on to a grudge that lasts for a fortnight, or we hang on to one that lasts for a year, or we hang on to something that lasts like a lifetime because we can't let go of the thought of it, we are permanently training our brain and our bodies to remember that. The thought triggers one lot of chemicals, the remembering is coming from the body. The body is craving the body chemistry. So it's telling our brain to think this so that it can get its addictive drug of the brain chemicals. So we're stuck in a cycle. So to get out of it, we really have to focus. It's possible to do it. Every time we learn something new, even coming here today, if you've learned just anything new, you've rewired your brain and you've somewhat deactivated the body chemistry loop that's going around telling your body that it needs the same chemicals. It's got some new chemicals today if you've learned something new. So the fix is to continue to learn on a mental level, continue to learn on a visceral level, because the chemistry of our body shifts much faster and much more strongly if we actually experience something physically. So you holding those crystals is going to make a bigger shift in your mental awareness and your body chemistry than just holding them. Me just telling you about them. And to practice. And if we practice in meditation, if we practice through visualization, the body really can't tell the difference between us visualizing in the third eye, in the mind, than it can with actual physical experiences. So we can deprogram ourselves through meditation. So he suggests that we do meditate, that we allow ourselves to fall into that natural state of opening and allowing, because it creates the change that allows us to let go of past body chemistry. And I hope that makes some sense to you. I'm going to pass this crystal around. This is azurite. It's actually azurite and malachite mixed together. The blue is the azurite and the green is the malachite. And for me, I love to work with this stone for the reason I'm about to tell you. The azurite is a similar colour to the lapis, and it's very focusing to our perception. But it's taking the energy down for me. We talked about the energy going up the body today. We go up to the higher realms, but then we come back down. The other name for the brow chakra, the name for the brow chakra is ajna, which has two meanings. One is to perceive. So we've talked about the perception point of view, we're seeing and seeing with the mind's eye. It also means to command, which means to create. So when we hold an image in our mind's eye of what it is that we want to create, and we can bring that energy down the body, all the way down into the earth, then that's called manifestation, and that's what we all want to do. So we can bring in those higher vibrations and bring them through us into the earth, and especially through our heart centre, because that's where we're connected to everything. That's a whole different talk. This connects us to both, to the third eye and to the heart. Malachite is one of the strongest heart chakra stones that you're going to find as well. So working with a mixture of the two is just lovely for bringing that energy back down into the body.